Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to introduce a new segment on my channel titled Women Walking in Passion and Purpose. And you'll see a various amount of women on here interviewed by me walking in their passion and purpose. The reason why I created this is just to show people that it's more than just a 9-to-5. And I'm not saying that anything is wrong with the 9-to-5, but if you have passion and you have a purpose for that passion, then why not showcase it? So you'll see a variety of women walking in different paths of life, even with a 9-to-5 job, and some might just be entrepreneurs and that is actually their job. But stay tuned for more to come. I have Elizabeth here. She's actually my first person to interview for this segment, so I'm super excited to have her and let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, Elizabeth Iduehi. I'm a sister, a daughter, a small business owner, Horology 101. I love to dance, I love pizza, and I'm just so grateful to be here today.
Cool. So yes, I had a privilege to use Horology 101 for a party that I've thrown, and she makes
Shea
butters, but she does what is it called, essential oil infused shea butter. So I've had the opportunity to buy some of the things from her, and it's amazing. So this is just a prime example of someone that has a job but also has another passion and purpose. So although she's interviewing today for a different career, we're not going to talk about Horology 101 today. We're going to talk about her and speech therapy, because that's another one of her passion and purpose. That's her main passion and purpose, and that's what she does currently. So I wanted to interview her because one, she's actually the only speech therapist I know personally. So I thought it was cool just to get a little background of why she wanted to do speech therapy and just the benefits of it. And for people who might want to go into speech therapy that's watching this, hopefully she can answer all your questions. So Elizabeth, if you're ready, I'll start the interview. So you know, I know you personally, so I know that you love speech therapy, but I still wanted to get just some background information, maybe things I don't know and some things that you wanted to share with them. So the first thing was telling us about yourself briefly, if you want to share a little bit more with our viewers.
Yes, like Vaughn said, I love speech therapy, and so as a speech therapist I get to work with different kinds of populations, from kids to adults in the schools, nursing homes, wherever, and you can do that across different states, which makes it so flexible depending on what population you like to work with or where you are in that stage of life. So Vaughn typically makes fun of me because she can usually see me half the time with a speech therapist shirt on, because I'm that passionate about speech therapy.
Well, I'm glad that you are that passionate and she rocks it well. So second question, why did you want to pursue speech therapy? What's your why?
I wish I had I always wanted to be a speech therapist story, but my mom actually got me into it. She's a nurse and she worked alongside of other speech therapists. And I was studying psychology and Spanish at the time, first year in college, and I was convinced I was going to be a lawyer. And she was like, you should really look into speech therapy, see if your college has it. And I told her, I've never heard of it, sounds way too unique, probably doesn't have it. So I looked and they had speech and hearing sciences, and I took my first class and I fell in love with it, and I just kept on taking classes and I ended up getting my degree.
Okay. So I know this is kind of maybe off topic, but the classes that you took in undergrad, like what kind of classes did they have you take in order to prepare for speech therapy?
So my program, and every program can be kind of different. Some programs are called speech and hearing sciences, like my college. Others are called communication disorders. So because mine was called speech and hearing sciences, we also had to take audiology classes. So we had to do anatomy of the ear and had to look at audiograms and be able to look at what are some high frequency sounds and low frequency sounds. We also then of course took speech classes. So the first class that I took was called phonetics, and so the English language is, and just like any other language, has a phonemic inventory. So every sound has what we call a transcription. So we had to learn what all those were and how they work to build language. So that's what made me fall in love with it. And other classes that I took, we had to learn about childhood disorders and adult disorders that are related to speech. So it's kind of a variety, so that by the time you graduate, you kind of have a little bit of each.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She also has her master's. So were the classes pretty similar and just more engaged and focused in a certain area?
Exactly. And so my master's is in speech language pathology. So I didn't have to take as many audiology classes. And so everything was more focused on now, how do I take all of that knowledge and funnel it into the clinical side. So now using that in treating adults and children. So we did more research-based evidence learning and reading articles and annotating them and figuring out what does the research say is the best thing to do for different populations. So it was the same subject matter, but it was definitely more in depth and it had more clinical focus on it.
Okay, thanks for sharing a little bit about that background. So share with us one pro and con about your career in speech therapy.
Well, I'm probably very biased because I really love my job. So So I think that there are definitely a lot of pros. I work in the schools full time. So in that setting, it's super flexible in terms of being able to make my therapy schedule so I can fit in when I want to do therapy times and whether I want to do a group of 2 versus 4 and maybe do one-on-one sessions with some kids depending on time, being able to consult with teachers. So it's really flexible and allows me to be creative in the way that I have learned about speech therapy and what's best for the kids, but then also add some of my personality to it. Another pro too is just specifically for what I'm trying to specialize in, which is alternative and augmentative communication. So with that, I get to work with kids and adults who need a communication device in order to communicate. So some people use pictures paired with text, and they show up as buttons on the screen, and they can either choose one word, like want, to tell someone something based on their proficiency level, and it can go all the way up to someone being able to do whole paragraphs to be able to communicate and participate in class. So I get to work with that population, and to me it's a pro because I feel like I have the ability to go around with a key and just unlock everyone's voices, and they pay me for it. And it's amazing to see someone who prior to was not able to communicate with anybody, people had to anticipate everything they did, to all of a sudden they're making jokes and they're telling people what they want, or even telling their mom that they love them. So just being able to be a part of that is definitely very rewarding. So that's a pro.
That's awesome.
Like I said, there's a lot of pros. Cons, I would definitely say being in the therapy world in general, whether you're a physical therapist, occupational therapist, psychologist, counselor, it's a team approach. And so in order to help the person that you're working with, everyone has to be on the same page. And sometimes that's hard, regardless if you work in the schools or in the hospitals. And I've seen those cons in both settings, where sometimes what you are recommending, everyone doesn't agree with, or they don't follow through on it.
Yeah.
So just trying to communicate to everyone why your approach and recommendation is the best for the person you're working with, and making sure people are on the same page, and making sure that people are also following through so that the kid has consistent therapy no matter who they work with.
Okay.
So.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you really love your job because you gave a lot of pros. And I can understand how the cons are a con, especially working with people and you giving recommendations, and everybody, some people, they raise their children different.
Right.
And I know just working, I don't work in this population, but I work with people similar, and it really, everything carries through in the home. It's like the speech therapist, the counselor, whatever, they can recommend, but if you don't implement things in the home,
Right.
I know it makes your job even tougher, a little harder once they get back to you, and you're almost having to do maybe double the work, or just maybe getting stuck in an area because they don't practice certain things at home. So thanks for that. So the next question, Liz, is what was a huge learning experience for you in your career in speech therapy?
I've definitely had a lot. I've been doing speech therapy now for 4 years, so I'm definitely in the beginning stages of my career, but most recently, I was in a situation where I had to learn about humility. And it seems like, well, doesn't sound like a speech-specific learning experience, but it is necessary in our career because we are in a helping field. And I think sometimes when you are in a helping field, it's easy when you're passionate about what you do and people see that you're passionate about it. It feels good when people compliment you and they make you feel as if what you're doing is truly your gift. And I just had an experience a little less than a year ago where I was definitely humbled. I think I had kind of gotten a bigger head in terms of like the compliments from other people, to the extent to where when we got into a situation where I was making a recommendation, I thought that a lot of the other people who were on my team to present it to the parent would support it, and that didn't happen. And it made me realize that for such a long time I was getting burnt out in that setting simply because I was relying too heavily on the praise of other people to do more than I really should have, because I wasn't really helping to make sure that everyone knew how to do it, because I was doing all of it. So I think the humility factor was definitely a great learning experience as I began to mature in my career, and making sure that the things that I'm continuing to do, I'm doing because God's given me an opportunity to work with His kids. And so making sure that, yes, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, but making sure that what I'm doing is the best for the child and to bring glory to God, and not so that people can clap and pat me on the back. So
yeah, I feel like that's a learning experience for anyone, especially if, like you said, you're as passionate as you are and you're good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to think, I know what I'm doing, and
right.
This is my recommendations. But I feel like that could be a learning experience for everyone, just not to get so comfortable, I guess.
For
Because
sure.
it's going to be other people that come along with other recommendations, or they're going to want to do something else, and
They may not agree.
they may not agree. That's a really good one. So the last thing I had is share a tip for those possibly wanting to pursue a career in speech therapy. So, a good tip.
Well, the first tip is to definitely do it. We definitely need more speech therapists in the field, especially men and women of color. It's definitely something that we are really looking to just diversify our field even more. Another tip is to see if there's an opportunity where you can work with children who have special needs, such as like populations like children with autism, or even adults with autism, or the intellectual disability community, just so you can get an idea of some of the populations that speech therapists typically work with. Because of HIPAA, we aren't able, it's very hard unless you're majoring in speech and hearing sciences or communication disorders to be able to observe a therapy session. So if you're not able to do that, being able to at least contact a speech therapist at a local university and see if you could just talk with them about what they do, and see if they have any additional resources specific to their campus. And of course, feel free to contact me. We post the link, or you can definitely contact FW Maid or Siobhan, and she can definitely forward the information to me, and I would be super excited to talk to anybody who's interested in the field and give you some really kind of specific tips about what you want to do, if you want to be a speech language pathologist aide or assistant, or whether you want to get your master's degree and be fully certified. So depending on the track that you're wanting to do, definitely feel free to ask questions, because we would love to have more speech therapists in the field.
Okay, sure thing. So I'll make sure to include her Instagram, of course, on the screen, and if you want, I can leave like her email in the description bar. So if you were interested in speech therapy and you wanted to contact her, you'll have her Instagram, and maybe you could shoot her a message that way, or you can go directly to her email and shoot her questions
For sure.
that way. I'm just so privileged to have Elizabeth here. I've known her for a good 2 years, but we didn't really
like
get
1,000, and
this
I love
close until maybe a year and a half or so, something like that. But I know she's great at what she does. She holds a lot of integrity in what she does, and I'm sad to see her leave. She's taking her talents out of Texas So I just thought this interview was very important. I wanted to do her first before she leaves. And if you want to share where you're going, or if not.
I will be an AAC specialist, that's the communication devices in the Bay Area, specifically the Northern Bay Area. So the opportunity that I'll have will be able just to work specifically with that population and learn how to do evaluations and consult and get more resources. So hopefully I can come back to Dallas, Texas and continue to work in this area. So I'm very excited to learn, but I'm definitely sad to leave, especially people like my mom.
Thank you. Well, that's all for this interview. Definitely subscribe so you can stay current for the next one. I can't wait to bring on the next person. I'm so excited to start this series, and I hope that it's something that's beneficial for you and something that you're excited to watch. So subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Bye.